The story begins on a very cold day. It is January 15th, 2009. The city is New York. It is the middle of winter, and the air is freezing. The temperature is roughly -7 degrees Celsius. People in the city are wearing heavy coats, hats, and gloves. They are walking fast to get out of the cold wind. But at LaGuardia Airport, everything is busy as usual. Inside the airport, it is warm and bright. Passengers are drinking hot coffee and waiting for their flights. They are checking their bags and saying goodbye to their families. Among these people, there's a group of travelers waiting for US Airways Flight 1549. They are going to Charlotte, North Carolina. For most of them, this is just a normal trip. Some are going home after a business meeting. Some are going to visit friends. Nobody knows that this day will become history. The pilot, Captain Sully. The man responsible for this flight is Captain Chesley Sullenberger. Everyone calls him Sully. He is a man with white hair and a calm face. Sully is not just a normal pilot. He's very experienced. He has been flying planes for more than 40 years. He flew fighter jets in the Air Force, and he has worked for the airlines for a long time. He knows everything about airplanes. He takes safety very seriously. On this day, Sully walks into the cockpit. The cockpit is the small room at the front of the plane where the pilots sit. He meets his co-pilot, Jeffrey Skiles. Jeffrey is also a very good pilot, but this is his first time flying this specific type of plane, the Airbus A320, without an instructor. However, he has thousands of hours of flying experience on other planes. The two men shake hands. They are professionals. They sit down in their seats. Sully sits on the left and Jeffrey sits on the right. They start their work. They have a long list of checks to do. They check the buttons, the lights, and the computers. Everything looks perfect. The plane is in good condition. Behind the pilots, the passengers are entering the plane. There are 150 passengers on this flight. There are also 3 flight attendants, Sheila, Donna, and Doreen. Their job is to keep the passengers safe and serve them drinks. The passengers find their seats. They put their bags in the overhead bins. Some people are reading newspapers, others are closing their eyes to sleep. It is a full flight, but everyone is comfortable. One passenger is a businessman. He is thinking about his meeting in Charlotte. Another passenger is a mother traveling with her child. She is trying to make her child comfortable. They buckle their seatbelts. The flight attendants walk down the aisle. They check that everyone is safe. They smile and say hello. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard," the announcement says. "Please turn off your electronic devices." The doors of the plane close. The noise of the airport is gone. Now it is just the hum of the airplane. The plane pushes back from the gate. It moves slowly toward the runway. The runway is the long road where planes take off. Captain Sully speaks to the control tower. The control tower is the building where people watch the planes and tell them when to go. "Cactus 1549, cleared for takeoff," the controller says. Cactus is the code name for US Airways. "Cactus 1549, cleared for takeoff," Sully repeats. Sully pushes the throttle forward. The engines roar. The engines are very powerful. They push the passengers back into their seats. The plane moves faster and faster. It goes 100 kilometers per hour, then 200, then 250. Suddenly, the wheels leave the ground. The plane is flying. It is a beautiful sight. Below them, they can see New York City. They see the tall buildings of Manhattan. They see the bridges and the cars, which look like tiny toys. To the left, they see the Hudson River. It looks like a long gray ribbon of water. The plane climbs higher into the sky. It reaches 1,000 feet, then 2,000 feet. The landing gear, the wheels, go up with a thump sound. The flight is smooth. The sky is clear and blue. It is a perfect day for flying. Inside the cabin, the passengers relax. The scary part of the takeoff is over. They think they can now relax for 2 hours until they reach North Carolina. The flight attendants prepare the carts to serve drinks. In the cockpit, Sully and Jeffrey are watching the instruments. "What a beautiful view," Sully says. He looks out the window at the Hudson River and the New York skyline. "Yes, it is," Jeffrey agrees. They are climbing to 3,000 feet. They are calm. They do not know that in exactly 1 minute, their lives will change forever. In front of the plane, far away, there's a flock of birds. These are Canada geese. These are large birds. They weigh about 4 to 6 kilograms each. They are flying in a V-shaped formation. They are migrating. Usually, planes and birds do not meet, but today their paths are crossing. The plane is moving at 400 kilometers per hour. The birds are moving slowly. They are on a collision course. The passengers are looking out the window, enjoying the view of the Bronx and the river. The coffee is not ready yet. The magazines are open. The world feels safe. But safety is fragile. Sometimes everything changes in a single second. And for the 155 people on Flight 1549, that second is about to arrive. It is exactly 3:27 p.m. The plane has been in the air for less than 2 minutes. It is climbing through 2,800 feet, about 850 meters. The speed is around 370 kilometers per hour. In the cockpit, Captain Sully looks out of the front window. Suddenly, his eyes get wide. Directly in front of the plane, he sees them. It is not just 1 or 2 birds. It is a whole flock. It looks like a wall of dark brown feathers. There is no space to move. There is no time to turn the plane left or right. The plane is moving too fast and the birds are too close. Sully only has time to say one word: birds. 1 second later, boom. The sound is incredibly loud. It sounds like someone hitting the plane with a giant hammer. The passengers in the cabin jump in their seats. They feel a heavy thud. The whole plane shakes violently. It feels like a car driving over a very big hole in the road. The birds did not just hit the nose of the plane. They went directly into the worst possible place. They went directly into the engines. The Airbus A320 has 2 large engines, one under each wing. These engines are like giant vacuum cleaners. They suck in a lot of air to push the plane forward. But today, they sucked in heavy Canada geese. The death of the engines. Engines are made of strong metal blades. They spin very fast, but they are not designed to eat large birds. When the birds hit the spinning blades, the blades broke. Bang, bang. Inside the cabin, passengers looking out the window see something terrifying. They see fire coming out of the engines. They hear loud explosions. Then comes the smell. Through the air conditioning vents, a terrible smell enters the plane. It smells like burning hair or burning meat. It is the smell of the birds burning inside the hot engines. In the cockpit, the situation is critical. Usually, if one engine breaks, the plane can still fly. Planes are designed to fly with just one engine. But this is a double bird strike. Both engines have swallowed birds. Both engines are damaged. Immediately, the loud roar of the engines disappears. Usually, a plane is very noisy, but now the noise is dropping. The engines are slowing down. Sully looks at the screens in front of him. He sees the numbers dropping. The engines are losing power. They are effectively dead. They are not pushing the plane forward anymore. Sully knows he must take control immediately. He follows the strict protocol or rules of flying. He puts his hand on the control stick and says clearly to his co-pilot, "My aircraft." This means I am flying the plane now. You help me fix the problem. Jeffrey Skiles replies instantly, "Your aircraft." Now, the plane is no longer a normal airplane. Without engines, a plane is just a very heavy piece of metal. It weighs nearly 50,000 kilograms. Because there is no power, the plane cannot climb higher. It begins to slow down. Gravity starts to pull it down toward the earth. Sully pushes the nose of the plane slightly. This is very important. If he tries to keep the nose up, the plane will slow down too much and fall like a stone. This is called a stall. By pushing the nose down, he keeps the speed safe. He turns the plane into a glider. But a glider needs a place to land, and they are over one of the most crowded cities in the world. Behind the cockpit door, the passengers are confused. They heard the bang. They felt the shake. Now they smell the smoke. "What was that?" one passenger asks. "Did we hit something?" asks another. The flight attendants, Sheila, Donna, and Doreen, are also scared. But they are professionals. They stay calm. They do not run or scream. They wait for instructions from the captain. The plane is getting quiet. The usual whoosh sound of the air is there, but the deep power of the engines is gone. The lights in the cabin flicker, go on and off. A man in seat 10A looks out the window. He sees the engine. It is not spinning. It looks dead. He feels a knot in his stomach. He knows something is very, very wrong. The plane continues to glide, but every second it is getting lower. They are losing altitude. Sully and Jeffrey have a massive problem. They are low, they are slow, they have no engines, and below them there is only a city made of concrete and steel. After the loud bang and the shaking, a strange thing happens. The plane becomes quiet. Usually, flying is noisy. You hear the deep roar of the jet engines. It is a powerful sound that tells you the plane is flying. But now, that sound is gone. The only sound remaining is the wind. It whistles against the windows. It sounds like a car driving fast on a highway with the windows open. In the cabin, the passengers stop talking. They look at each other. They hold the arms of their chairs tightly. The silence is more scary than the noise. The silence tells them that the power is gone. In the cockpit, there is no time to be afraid. Sully and Jeffrey are working very fast. They are trained for emergencies. Jeffrey grabs a thick book called the Quick Reference Handbook, QRH. This book has instructions for every problem. He flips the pages quickly to find dual engine failure, loss of both engines. He begins to read the instructions aloud. "Ignition, start," Jeffrey says. Sully pushes the buttons to restart the engines. They hope the engines will wake up. They listen. They wait. Nothing. The engines are destroyed. The birds damaged them too much. They will not start again. Sully knows he must talk to the ground. He puts on his headset. He pushes the radio button. He speaks to the air traffic controller at the New York Center. His voice is calm. He does not scream. He speaks slowly and clearly. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday," Sully says. "This is Cactus 1549. We hit birds. We lost thrust in both engines. We are turning back towards LaGuardia." Mayday is the international code for a life-threatening emergency. The man listening in the control tower is named Patrick Harton. When he hears Sully, he cannot believe his ears. He looks at his radar screen. He sees the little dot that represents Flight 1549. "Cactus 1549, return to LaGuardia. Turn left, heading 220, Patrick says quickly. Patrick is trying to help. He wants the plane to come back to the airport. He clears the runway. He tells other planes to stay away. He stops all takeoffs. "Tower, stop your departures. We have an emergency returning," Patrick shouts to his colleagues. Sully turns the plane slightly to the left. He looks at LaGuardia Airport. He can see the white runways in the distance. They look very far away. Sully looks at his speed. He looks at his altitude, height. The plane is dropping at a rate of 1,000 feet per minute. They are now below 2,000 feet. If he tries to fly back to the airport, he has to fly over the city. If he does not reach the runway, he will crash into apartments, schools, and houses. It would be a disaster. Thousands of people could die. Sully does the math in his head instantly. Distance to airport, too far. Speed, too slow. Height, too low. He presses the radio button again. He has bad news for the controller. "Unable," Sully says. Patrick in the tower is shocked. "Okay," he says. "What can you do?" Sully looks to his right. He sees Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. It is another option. "We can try Teterboro," Sully says. Patrick quickly calls Teterboro. "We have an emergency aircraft coming to you." Teterboro clears their runways. But Sully looks at Teterboro. It is also too far. The buildings between the plane and the airport are too tall. The plane is sinking too fast. Sully knows the truth. The engines are dead. The airports are impossible. There is no runway for them. He looks out the front window. He sees the only flat, open space in the entire city. It is not concrete. It is water. Time is a funny thing. Usually, 3 minutes is a short time. You can boil an egg in 3 minutes. You can listen to one song in 3 minutes. But in the cockpit of Flight 1549, 3 minutes feels like a lifetime. Every second is precious. The plane is a giant glider. It is falling out of the sky. Captain Sully is calm, but his brain is working like a high-speed computer. He feels the plane. He knows how heavy it is. He knows how fast it is sinking. He does not need a calculator to know the truth. He can feel it in his hands on the control stick. In the control tower, Patrick Harton is still trying to save them. He does not want the plane to crash. He wants to give Sully a safe place to land. "Cactus 1549, you can land at Teterboro," Patrick says. Teterboro Airport is in New Jersey. It is to the right of the plane. Sully looks out the right window. He sees the airport. It is close, but not close enough. Between the plane and Teterboro, there are tall buildings and houses. Sully checks his altitude again. They are now at 1,500 feet. To reach Teterboro, they need to fly over the George Washington Bridge. The bridge is tall. If they try to go to Teterboro, they might hit the bridge, or worse, they might crash into the populated suburbs of New Jersey. If they try to reach the airport and fail, the result will be a catastrophe. The plane will explode on the ground. Everyone on the plane will die. People on the ground will die. Sully knows the rule of flying. Never try a dangerous turn when you are low and slow. He presses the radio button. "We can't do it," Sully says. Patrick Hartson is running out of ideas. "Okay," Patrick says quickly. "Which runway would you like at Teterboro?" Patrick is hoping Sully will change his mind. "We're gonna be in the Hudson," Sully replies. This sentence is famous now. It is short, it is simple, but it is shocking. We're gonna be in the Hudson. Patrick Hartson freezes. He thinks he heard wrong. "I'm sorry, say again?" he asks. But Sully does not answer. He stops talking to the tower. He has made his decision. Talking to the controller takes time and concentration. Sully needs 100% of his concentration to fly the plane. Why did Sully choose the river? To a normal person, landing on water sounds crazy. Water is hard. If you hit it fast, it feels like concrete. Planes usually break when they hit water. The wings can snap off. The plane can flip over. But Sully looks at the Hudson River differently. It is long. The river is miles and miles long. He does not need to worry about the runway being too short. It is wide. He does not need to worry about hitting trees or buildings on the side. It is flat. There are no hills. It is near the boats. Sully sees ferry boats moving on the water. He knows the water is freezing. If they survive the crash, they will need rescue immediately. The boats can help them. It is the best of the bad options. Option A, crash into the city. Death is certain. Option B, try for an airport and miss. Death is certain. Option C, land on the river. Survival is possible. Sully turns the plane south. He aligns the plane with the river. He follows the path of the water. He looks at his co-pilot, Jeffrey Skiles. Jeffrey is still trying to restart the engines. He is working hard. "Got any ideas?" Sully asks. "Actually not," Jeffrey replies. "They have done everything possible. The engines are dead. The airports are behind them. The only thing in front of them is the cold, gray water of the Hudson River. They are passing 1,000 feet. The buildings of Manhattan are passing by the windows. The people in the skyscrapers can see the plane. It is flying lower than the roofs of the buildings. Office workers in Manhattan stop working. They look out the window. Why is that plane so low? It looks like it's going to crash." Sully takes a deep breath. He grips the controls. He has to land a 50-ton metal tube on a moving river without breaking it. He has to save 155 lives, and he has about 60 seconds left to do it. The plane is now very, very low. It is flying at about 900 feet, roughly 275 meters. Ahead of them is the George Washington Bridge. It is a massive bridge that connects New York City to New Jersey. It is full of cars and trucks. The towers of the bridge are tall. From the cockpit, the bridge looks huge. "Are we going to hit it?" Jeffrey Skiles wonders silently. But Sully is precise. He keeps the plane steady. The plane flies over the bridge with only a little space to spare. It is so close that the people driving on the bridge can read the letters US Airways on the side of the plane. They can see the windows. Once they pass the bridge, there are no more obstacles. There are no more buildings. There is only the long, gray river stretching out in front of them. Sully knows he has only a few seconds left before they hit the water. He needs to warn the passengers. If the passengers are standing up or looking out the window, they will get hurt when the plane stops. They need to protect their bodies. Sully picks up the microphone. He speaks to the cabin. He does not shout. He does not sound scared. His voice is firm and commanding. He says only 3 words. "Brace for impact." That is it. He does not say, "We are crashing." He does not say, "Goodbye." He gives a command. He wants them to be ready. In the cabin, the flight attendants, Sheila, Donna, and Doreen, hear the command. They know exactly what to do. They have trained for this moment for years. Immediately, they start shouting. They do not stop. They yell loudly so everyone can hear them over the wind. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. The passengers react instantly. The fear is real now. Brace for impact means they are going to crash. People put their heads on their knees. They wrap their arms around their legs. They protect their heads. Some people are praying. Some are holding hands with the person next to them. A mother holds her baby tight. A businessman closes his eyes and thinks of his wife. Nobody screams. The cabin is filled with the rhythmic shouting of the flight attendants. Heads down, stay down. In the cockpit, the plane's computer is unhappy. The computer uses radar to see the ground. It sees that the ground, or the water, is coming very fast. A robotic voice shouts in the cockpit. Terrain, terrain, pull up, pull up. The computer thinks the pilots are making a mistake. It wants them to fly up. But Sully ignores the robot. He cannot pull up. If he pulls up, the plane will slow down and fall. He has to go down. Sully is focused on three things. Speed. He needs to be slow enough to not break the plane, but fast enough to keep flying. He targets 140 knots, about 260 kilometers per hour. Level. The wings must be perfectly flat. If one wing hits the water first, the plane will cartwheel or flip over and break. And angle. The nose must be up. The back of the plane needs to hit the water first, like a boat. The water is rushing up at them. It looks dark and cold. The waves are choppy. The view out of the window is terrifying. The water fills the entire view. Sully takes a breath. Jeffrey watches the speed. 150 knots, Jeffrey says. 140 knots. Sully pulls the stick back, gently. The nose of the plane lifts up. The tail goes down. They are seconds away from contact. The passengers brace themselves. The pilots brace themselves. The miracle on the Hudson is about to happen. The moment of truth arrives. Captain Sully pulls the control stick back. The nose of the plane points up towards the sky. The tail of the plane points down towards the water. This is the most important part. If the nose hits the water first, the water will scoop up the plane and break it into pieces. The plane must land like a duck. Feet first, then belly. At 3:31 p.m., the back of the plane touches the surface of the Hudson River. Crash! It is not a soft landing. Water is very hard when you hit it at 240 kilometers per hour. The tail hits the water with tremendous force. The impact tears a hole in the bottom of the plane at the back. Then, the rest of the plane slams into the water. Imagine driving a car at 100 kilometers per hour and slamming on the brakes. Now imagine doing that in a plane. The passengers feel a massive force pushing them forward. Their seatbelts catch them. Their heads push against the seats in front of them. The brace position saves them from breaking their necks. Bags fly out of the overhead bins. Coffee cups and magazines fly through the air. The noise is incredibly loud. It is the sound of metal scraping against water. Outside the windows, the passengers see nothing but white and gray. The plane is moving so fast that it pushes a giant wave of water up. The water covers the windows completely. It looks like they are underwater. The plane slides across the surface of the river. It slides for almost a minute. It is slowing down rapidly. Shh, thump. Then, suddenly, the movement stops. The noise stops. The shaking stops. The plane comes to a rest. It is sitting in the middle of the river, right next to Manhattan. It is floating level. The wings are even. We are alive. Inside the cabin, there is a moment of pure shock. Everyone waits for fire. Everyone waits for an explosion. Everyone waits for the plane to sink like a stone. But nothing happens. The plane is bobbing gently on the water, like a boat. Is it over? Someone whispers. We're alive, someone else says. People lift their heads. They look around. They check their bodies. Arms work. Legs work. They are bruised and scared, but they are alive. In the front, Sully and Jeffrey sit in silence for 1 second. The plane has stopped. Sully looks at Jeffrey. That wasn't so bad, Jeffrey says. This is a joke, of course. It was terrifying. Sully looks at the instruments. The engines are dead. The computers are dying. Sully does one final check. He commands the evacuation. Evacuate, he says. But the danger is not over. The plane is not a boat. It is not designed to float forever. Remember the tail? When it hit the water, it tore open. In the back of the plane, the situation is bad. The flight attendant, Doreen, sees water rushing in through the floor. It is freezing cold river water. It is rising fast. It is already at her ankles, then her knees. Get up, get out, Doreen shouts to the passengers in the back. The passengers in the back unbuckle their seatbelts. They see the water coming. They know they have to move forward. If they stay in their seats, they will drown. The plane is slowly sinking by the tail. The nose is pointing up. The race to get out has begun. The plane is floating, but it feels wrong. It is tilting back. The carpet is getting wet. The smell of jet fuel, gasoline for planes, is strong in the air. Unfasten your seatbelt. Leave your bags. Come this way, the flight attendants shout. Usually, when a plane lands, people move slowly. They stand up, stretch, and check their phones. But today, everyone moves fast. This is not a normal landing. Passengers jump out of their seats. Some people try to grab their coats or laptops. Leave everything, the crew shouts again. Just go. Money, passports, and computers do not matter now. Only life matters. In the back of the plane, the water is rising fast. The impact made a hole in the bottom, and the tail is sinking. The water is freezing cold, about 2 degrees Celsius. A passenger in the back runs to the rear exit door. He reaches for the handle to open it. Stop, the flight attendants shout. Do not open that door. She looks out the small window. The water is above the bottom of the door. If they open the back door, the river will rush in instantly and the plane will sink much faster. They cannot use the back exits. Go forward! Go over the wings, she yells. The passengers in the back have to climb over the seats to get away from the rising water. It is crowded and scary. In the front of the plane, things are better. The nose is high out of the water. Flight attendants Sheila and Donna grab the large handles of the front doors. They lift the handles. Whoosh! The heavy doors swing open. Daylight enters the dark cabin. Normally, if you open the door, there's a slide. You slide down to the ground. But today, the slide does something different. When the door opens, the yellow slide inflates instantly. Because the plane is on water, the slide becomes a life raft. It is like a little yellow boat attached to the plane. This is perfect. It means people can get out without jumping into the freezing water. In the middle of the plane, passengers open the emergency exits over the wings. These are the small doors you see in the middle rows. Passengers pull the handle and throw the heavy door inside the cabin. They step out. But there are no rafts here. There is only the wing. The wings of the Airbus A320 are long and smooth. They are slippery. The passengers step out onto the gray metal wings. Careful, it's slippery, someone shouts. The first few people walk out. They stand on the wing. The water is lapping at their toes. The river is wide and gray. The wind is biting cold. Inside the plane, there is panic, but there is also kindness. People are pushing, but they are also helping. "Let the women and children go," a man shouts. The men step back. They let mothers with babies go first. They let older people go first. One man helps a woman who dropped her glasses. Another man helps an older lady climb over a seat. Even in the worst moment, people are trying to be good. Captain Sully opens the cockpit door. He steps into the cabin. He sees the chaos. "Evacuate! Evacuate!" he commands. He does not run out. He stays. He is the captain. The rule of the sea and the sky is that the captain is the last person to leave the ship. He needs to make sure everyone else gets out first. As people step out of the warm plane, the cold hits them like a punch. The air is -7 degrees Celsius. The water is 2 degrees Celsius. If you fall in the water, your muscles will stop working in a few minutes. You will die of hypothermia, being too cold. Everyone knows they must stay dry. They crowd onto the rafts. They crowd onto the wings. But there is not enough space. The wings are getting full. The rafts are getting full. And the plane is slowly sinking deeper into the Hudson River. If you looked out from a tall building in Manhattan at 3:35 p.m. that day, you saw something impossible. You saw a giant airplane sitting in the middle of the river. And on top of that airplane, you saw people. Dozens of passengers were standing on the wings. The wings of the plane were long and silver. They stretched out into the water. It looked like a strange metal island. There was no land nearby. To the left was New Jersey. To the right was New York City. Beneath them was 50 feet of dark, freezing water. Standing on the wing was not easy. The wings were wet with river water and slippery with jet fuel. The plane was not stable. It was rocking slightly with the waves and the movement of the people. Passengers held onto each other. They formed a human chain. Strangers held hands with strangers. "Don't let go," a man said to the woman next to him. "I won't," she replied, her teeth chattering from the cold. They had to balance carefully. If they slipped, they would fall into the icy river. As more people climbed out of the emergency exits, the wings became crowded. move down," people shouted. But there was nowhere to go. The end of the wing was dipping into the water. The cold was the new enemy. The crash didn't kill them, but the cold wanted to. Most passengers were not wearing coats. They had left their jackets in the overhead bins or on their seats because they evacuated so fast. They were wearing only business shirts or light sweaters. The wind cut through their thin clothes. The temperature was -7 degrees Celsius. People were shaking uncontrollably. Their lips were turning blue. The water on the wings was freezing their feet. Some people had taken off their shoes to swim, so they were standing on the cold metal in their socks. A few passengers panicked. They looked at the crowded wings and thought there was no space. Splash! They jumped into the river. They tried to swim away from the plane. "Come back," others shouted. "Stay on the wing. The water will kill you." Swimming in such cold water is very dangerous. It steals your energy in minutes. The people who jumped realized their mistake quickly. They tried to swim back to the rafts or the wings. Inside the plane, the water was rising higher. The back of the plane was now deep underwater. The cabin floor was steep, like a hill. Captain Sully did not run for the exit. He did something brave. He walked down the sinking plane. He walked from the cockpit towards the back. The water was rushing around his legs. It came up to his waist. He looked at every row of seats. He checked under the blankets. He checked the bathrooms. "Is anyone there?" he shouted. "Is anyone left?" He had to be sure. He could not leave even one person behind. He looked at the empty seats. He saw the abandoned bags and newspapers floating in the dirty water. He reached the middle of the plane. He could not go further because the water was too deep. He saw nobody. The plane was empty. Sully turned around. He walked back up the aisle to the front. He grabbed the aircraft maintenance logbook, the book with the plane's history, and his coat. He was the last person to step out of the plane. On the banks of the river, people were stopping their cars. They got out and pointed. Look, a plane! People in office buildings pressed their faces against the glass. Are they alive? It looks like they're standing on the water. Sirens began to wail across the city. Police cars, fire trucks, and ambulances were racing toward the river. But the roads were busy. Traffic was heavy. The passengers on the wings looked at the city. It looked so close, but they could not reach it. They felt lonely. They were 155 people, huddled together on a sinking island of aluminum, waiting for a miracle. Then they heard a new sound. It was not a siren. It was a deep horn. Honk! They looked down the river. A boat was coming. Then another. Then another. The ferries were coming. While Captain Sully was landing the plane, other captains were working nearby. These were the captains of the NY Waterway Ferries. These boats carry people between New Jersey and New York every day. It is usually a boring job. They drive back and forth, back and forth. Captain Vincent Lombardi was driving a ferry named the Thomas Jefferson. He had just left the dock. He looked up and saw the plane coming down. He saw the splash. He did not wait for permission. He did not call his boss to ask what to do. He knew the law of the sea. This is an old rule for sailors. If someone is in danger on the water, you must help them. "Rescue duty!" Lombardi shouted to his crew. He turned his big white boat around. He pushed the engines to full power. The boat raced toward the sinking plane. It was not just the Thomas Jefferson. Other ferries saw the crash too. The Moira Smith, the Governor Thomas H. Keene, and others all turned toward the plane. It took them only 4 minutes to arrive. This speed was incredible. In a normal emergency, you wait 10 or 20 minutes for the police, but the ferries were already there. As Captain Lombardi got close, he slowed down. This was very difficult. The ferry was huge and heavy. If he hit the plane, he could break it. If he made big waves, he could wash the passengers off the slippery wings. He had to be gentle. He guided the nose of his ferry right up to the wing of the plane. It was a perfect touch. "Grab my hand!" The deckhands, the workers on the boat, ran to the front. They saw the terrified passengers shivering on the wings. "Here, grab the ladder!" the sailors shouted. They dropped a rescue ladder named a Jason's Cradle over the side. It is like a net that people can climb, but the passengers were frozen. Their hands were so cold they could not hold the ropes. Their legs were stiff. They could not climb. The sailors realized they had to do more. They reached over the side of the boat. They grabbed the passengers by their shirts, their belts, and their arms. They pulled them up with pure strength. "I got you! I got you!" a sailor yelled as he pulled a woman onto the dry deck of the ferry. The situation was worse for the people in the water. Some passengers had jumped off the wings and were swimming. They were drifting away in the strong current of the river. Suddenly, a loud noise came from the sky. Thwack, thwack, thwack. It was a police helicopter. It hovered low over the water. The wind from the helicopter blades kicked up the water. 2 NYPD divers, Michael Delaney and Robert Rodriguez, looked down. They saw a woman struggling in the freezing water. She was losing energy. She was going to drown. Without hesitation, the divers jumped from the helicopter. Splash! They fell 10 feet into the icy river. They swam to the woman. "We have you," the diver said. He held her up. He put a flotation device around her. He saved her life. Back on the plane, the rescue was moving fast. One by one, passengers moved from the sinking wings onto the warm ferries. Captain Sully was still in the life raft at the front of the plane. The ferry captains shouted to him, "Captain, come aboard! It's time to go!" But Sully did not move yet. He stood in the raft. He watched his passengers. He counted them. He wanted to make sure nobody was left behind. He saw the last passenger climb onto a ferry. Only then did Sully climb onto the boat. He was wet. He was cold. He had lost his plane, but he was calm. On the ferries, the scene was emotional. The sailors gave their own coats to the passengers. They gave them gloves. Is everyone okay? Is anyone hurt? The passengers were crying, but not from sadness. They were crying from relief. We made it, a man said, hugging his wife. We actually made it. The ferry engines roared again. They turned away from the sinking plane. They headed toward the dock in Manhattan. Behind them, US Airways Flight 1549 drifted down the river. It was low in the water now, almost gone. It had done its job. It had kept them safe just long enough. The passengers were safe, but there was still one big question. There were 155 people on the list. Did everyone get off? Was anyone trapped inside? Nobody knew the answer yet. The ferries arrived at the docks in Manhattan and New Jersey. It looked like a scene from a movie. Hundreds of police officers, firefighters, and doctors were waiting. There were ambulances with their lights flashing. As the passengers stepped off the boats, they looked like ghosts. They were wet and shaking. Some were wrapped in blankets. Some were wearing yellow life vests. Some had no shoes. The doctors rushed to help them. Are you hurt? Are you cold? They checked for broken bones. Amazingly, there were very few serious injuries. One flight attendant had a cut on her leg. Some people had bruises. But mostly, people were just freezing cold. Where is Sully? Captain Sully did not go to the hospital immediately. He did not go to a hotel to rest. He stayed at the pier. He had one important job left to do. He needed to know the number. He knew there were 155 people on the plane, 150 passengers and 5 crew members. He needed to know that 155 people were on the land. He walked into a room where the police and airline officials were working. He was still wearing his wet uniform. He took off his wet tie. He looked serious. I need the count, Sully said. It was difficult to count everyone. The passengers were on different ferries. Some went to New York, some went to New Jersey, some went to hospitals. It was a mess. Sully waited. The minutes felt like hours. He thought about the empty seats on the plane. Did he miss someone? Was someone trapped in the bathroom? Was someone swimming alone in the river? If even one person died, Sully would feel like he failed. Finally, a police officer put down his phone. He looked at Captain Sully. He smiled. We have the count, the officer said. It's 155. Sully closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. His shoulders relaxed. 155? He asked, just to be sure. Yes, 155, the officer repeated. Everyone is safe. Every single person survived. The baby survived, the grandmother survived, the businessman survived, the crew survived, the pilot survived. It was impossible. A plane lost both engines. It landed on a river in the middle of a city. It happened in the freezing winter, and nobody died. The news traveled fast. TV channels all over the world stopped their normal programs. Breaking news, plane crashes in New York. Everyone survives. The governor of New York spoke to the reporters. He searched for the right words. He said, "We have had a miracle on the Hudson." That name stuck. It was not just a crash. It was a miracle. But it wasn't magic. It was a miracle created by people. It was the skill of Captain Sully and Jeffrey Skiles. It was the bravery of the flight attendants who shouted, "Get out!" It was the quick thinking of the ferry captains. It was the calmness of the passengers who helped each other. That night, 155 people went to sleep in warm beds. They hugged their families a little tighter. They realized how fragile life is. They were supposed to die that afternoon, but they were given a second chance at life. Captain Sully became a hero. He wrote a book. They made a movie about him starring Tom Hanks. But Sully always said the same thing. I was just doing my job. The plane, the Airbus A320, was pulled out of the river a few days later. Today, it's in a museum in Charlotte, North Carolina. You can go see it. You can see the dented metal. You can see the mud from the river. But the most important thing you cannot see in the museum, you cannot see the 155 souls. They are not in the museum. They are out in the world, living their lives thanks to a cold winter day, a steady hand, and a decision made in 3 seconds. I have selected the most important and difficult words from the story and grouped them by category to make them easier to learn. Cockpit. The small room at the front of the plane where the pilots sit and control the aircraft. Runway. The long, flat road at an airport where planes take off and land. Takeoff. The moment the plane leaves the ground and starts flying. Altitude. The height of an object, like a plane, above the ground or sea level. Throttle. The lever or handle that controls how much power goes to the engines, like the gas pedal in a car. Glide. To fly smoothly without using engine power, like a paper airplane. Flock. A group of birds flying or eating together. Strike or collision. A violent crash or impact between two things. Impact. The moment when two objects hit each other with force. Vents. Small openings that let air or smells enter or exit a room or cabin. Mayday. An international radio signal used by ships and aircraft to ask for urgent help during a life-threatening emergency. Brace. To hold your body stiff and cover your head to protect yourself before a crash. Evacuate. To leave a dangerous place quickly to go to a safe place. Inflatable. Something designed to be filled with air, like a balloon or a life raft. Raft. A flat rubber boat used in emergencies. Hypothermia. A dangerous medical condition where the body temperature drops too low because of extreme cold. Ferry. A boat used to carry passengers and cars across a river or short distance regularly. Pier or dock. A structure built over water where boats stop to let people on or off. Miracle. An amazing or wonderful event that seems impossible, often believed to be caused by a higher power. Fragile. Easily broken or damaged. Chaos. Complete confusion and disorder. Relief. The happy feeling you have when a bad situation stops or does not happen. Hesitation. A pause before doing something because you are unsure or afraid. Okay, listeners, that's all for today. Please like this video and subscribe our channel. See you in the next day. Take care. Bye.